Alexander Titov is a lecturer at Queen's University in Belfast and joins me now via Skype. Good to have you with us. So clearly Syria was one of the main topics of discussion between the two sides. They say that they want to establish these safe zones on the ground where aircraft are banned, no-fly zones. So how problematic is that?
Yeah, I think there is an issue of difference in languages as well. I think Russia is talking about deconflicting zones. It's not quite safe zone or no-fly zones, what's been emphasis in the West. So there's still kind of things to be agreed on, but I think it's not that easy to set up, first of all, because whom those zones are going to be covered. I mean, if former Al-Nusra, ISIS is not going to be covered by it, who is going to monitor it? If you're talking about no-fly zones, who is going to enforce it if there is a violation and so forth. So there are lots of things to be discussed on. And I think just even the difference in languages indicate there are still quite a few things to be sorted out before they actually enforce those zones in place.
Right, yeah, in fact, I mean, I remember the similar conversations 6 years ago when Barack Obama's administration was talking about perhaps setting up no-fly zones, and the idea in the end was abandoned because of all the reasons you've just mentioned. Now, this idea this time round seems to have the support of Donald Trump, but I mean, is it actually achievable?
Well, I think it's achievable if it's basically the main players agree on it, right? So the initial agreements on safe zone was to enforce it against the will of the Syrian regime. Now, if you have zones which are agreed by the Syrian regime, agreed by Russia, agreed by Iran and Turkey, then there is more chance of success for them. But again, issue is what they're actually going to do. I think Russia was thinking about this zones as basically like an extension of a ceasefire agreement, just going it a little bit beyond the front line and so forth. Perhaps there's a different emphasis from Turkey, which is basically saying there's a fly zone which whoever inside it is not untouchable by the either by the Russians or by the Syrian regime. So there's still, if there is a political agreement of what they actually be enforced, then and why, then it can work. If they're still talking past each other, then it's not gonna happen. But that's still, there's still, yeah.
I just wanted to ask you a little bit about the relationship between Turkey and Russia, because both countries now saying that ties have been normalised. Do you see Turkey as moving closer to Russia? It seems to be moving further away from Europe.
Well, I mean, that's another point, of course, because I think they both moved away from Europe in terms of their values, in terms of the political processes which are happening both in Russia and Turkey. I mean, obviously, Russia has completely fallen out with the West. It's under sanctions, mutual sanctions within Europe, Russia, and so forth. So Europe criticizing Turkey for all sorts of reasons actually makes its relations with Russia easier, because they're both under this criticism and then can reinforce each other in the way against Europe, against the West. There is obviously still a lot of economic activity as well between Turkey and Russia, which has been revived. And again, there's a security interest which are also coincide potentially in Syria as well. So there's kind of a lot of broad field for cooperation there, but it's still not quite the same level as it used to be before that plane was shot down back in 2015.
Good to get your analysis there. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Alexander Titov there from Queen's University in Belfast.